Hi, seventh graders. Today I'm going to talk about how we are going to set up your papers and your writing for your essays that you'll be doing in the next year and the years following. In the Nuclear School District and for English Language Arts, we follow a format called MLA. M stands for Modern, L stands for Language, and A stands for Association. So this is the format you are going to use when you are in our school district. Again, it's called MLA, and it looks like this. As you can see on my screen, this is how you are going to set up your paper. Up on the top, you are going to do a insert, and you are going to go to headers. You're going to click that on, and you're going to put your last name and the page number for what page you are going to use. If I go into 2 or 3 pages, I have to put this page number, last name, up on the top right-hand corner, every single page that comes with it. Okay? You are going to return twice, and then the first place is you're going to put your first name and your last name. You're going to spell it correctly. You're going to use capital letters because you are in 7th grade, and it's going to look like this. You're going to return twice. Then you are going to put your teacher's name, put the prefix for what they use, Mrs., Mr., Doctor, whoever your teacher's name is, and then their last name. Again, capital letters on their last name, 7th graders. You're going to return twice, and then you are going to label the class that you are submitting this writing for. In this case, you are going to use ELA 7. That is the name. If you are in science or social studies, you're going to put that down. Or if you're doing a math class, you're going to put the title of the class that you are in as such. Last time, you're going to return twice, and you are going to put the date like you normally would, spelling the words correctly, putting a comma between the date and the year. So it should look like this. You are going to return twice, and then you are going to use your center key, and you are going to center a line, which will move your cursor over, and you are going to put the title for whatever it is that you are doing. If it's an assignment, or the title of your essay, your story, your poem, etc. In this case, I'm using end of module essay as my title because it's the assignment. Usually in this class, unless it's a creative writing piece, I have you put the title as whatever assignment it is that you are doing. Please note, 7th graders, that I have capital letters. This is a title. So just remembering, in title words, the first word is always capitalized, and most of the major words are capitalized in that as well. Spaces in between. The word of, because it's a smaller second word and it's 3 letters or less, I don't need to capitalize. Of is the, as long as it's not the first word. Okay. I'm going to return twice. And then I know you already know this, but just a reminder, the first thing I'm going to do is indent into my paragraph. So I can do that by hitting the tab, and it moves my cursor over to the 5 spaces in. Okay. So what you are going to do is, I just made up a title for this essay. I made up a book. Actually, I didn't make up a book, but I'm going to show you just how it is you're going to format and use a quote and cite the quote. Now, in 6th grade, I know that Mrs. Murray, if you had Miss Murray, that she taught you how to write in a quote and provide textual evidence, pulling those lines off of the book page and putting them in your writing. In 7th grade, the expectation is you're not just going to pull the lines, but you are going to what's called lead into why you're using that quote. And you are going to explain the quote's purpose after you've used it and shared it. But there's some technical issues that when you're using a quote, how do I punctuate it? What does it need to look like? So as you can see, here's my introduction. In the novel, comma, The Martian Chronicles. So that's the title of my book. I capitalized it accordingly, capital T on the, because it's the first word, capital M on Martian, capital C on Chronicles. And I underline it because it is a book title. You can put book titles in a quote, but then when you're quoting stories, it gets confusing. So I would just prefer that if it's a book title, you underline it. It just makes it simpler. Okay. So as I read along in the novel, The Martian Chronicles, I was smart and I named the exact book title that I'm talking about. The protagonist, ooh, big word, but you guys should know what that word means. Of the story has to go through many challenges as they blah, 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 blah. Okay. So now I'm going to start providing textual evidence from my book. In the story, we find out that the main character, Ray, is desperate to fight the aliens to win his freedom. That's what happens in the story. So, what this line is, seventh grader, is this is what I refer to as, and you are going to hear this from most of your academic career, this is what we call in ELA a lead into your quote. This is going to explain what your quote is going to talk about. We don't just, you're going to hear Mrs. Harper say this, you don't just bleh, puke up a quote and just throw it in there. You have to lead us up to what you're talking about, give us the direct quote, and then you have to tell us why you chose that quote, why it was important enough for you to put it down. So this is my lead. In the story, we found out the main character, Ray, is desperate to fight the aliens to win his freedom, comma. Now I'm going to provide a direct quote from the story, and I'm going to use quotation marks. My first word of my quote is always capitalized. We must take on the aliens and stun them with our weapons so that we can easily overtake them. I put a comma there because I have more to tell about that. If I was just done with that quote, I would put a period there and an end quote. And then you're going to notice right here, this is the MLA standard format for how you are going to cite textual evidence in your story. You are going to put a parenthesis, first parentheses, and then you are going to give me the author's last name. Please make sure that you spell it correctly and use a capital letter. This book was written, The Martian Chronicles was written by the author Ray Bradbury. I'm going to put the capital B on Bradbury. I'm going to put a comma after it, and I'm going to write page 47. So that's where Mrs. Harper or whatever teacher you have, they can look back in that book and find on page 47 those exact words. Now you're using that textual evidence to support your ideas and your thinking. So you are giving credit to that author for using their work. You guys are all smart and you know that I can't just use this quote, that's Ray Bradbury's quote, and claim it as my own. I can't do that because that's called plagiarism. And you're going to get in a lot of trouble if you don't properly cite your work and of an author, a published author, and claim it as your own. So you have to properly cite your sources. Now, that's what I did in the turquoise bracket. Just a reminder. Notice that how I roll it in. My yellow's my lead. I give my direct quote. I quote it. I cite it correctly within the quote. And then I continue on. I don't just stop there and move on to something else. If you are using a direct quote, you have to lead up to why you're using it, explain beforehand why it's important. You have to give me the direct quote. And then readers and writers, you have to tell me why you use that quote. You can't just stop and move on to something else. Why was this so important that you think it proves your point that you're trying to make in your writing? So this is just a brief lesson into how to use MLA format. This is what you are going to be using in your end of module essay that you're going to be doing for me in a few days. And this is going to be the model for what I want to see every time you turn a piece of writing in on Canvas. Anytime you're writing a piece, this is what you're going to follow. Good work. Thank you.